Alright guys, my name is Shervin. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to rank every single business credit card in Canada. Now, if you watched my last video, I went over every single personal credit card in Canada and ranked those. If you're interested in checking that video out and you haven't already, make sure to do so. But in this video, I'm just focusing on the business cards and we're going to see how we rank these. And again, I've tried to include as many as possible. I know there might be a couple of cards here and there that I may have missed. There was a couple in the last video and you guys make sure to let me know in the comments and I appreciate it. But I tried to get all the major ones. If there's one that I missed, let me know in the comments down below. We can discuss it there and I'll let you know what my thoughts are on those cards as well. But without further ado, let's get right into it. The first card is the American Express Business Edge card. And this one for me goes into A for now. Now, this is a card that I might consider putting into S. But I'm going to put it on A for now, and then let's see what other cards get on the board. And if there is a need, I might adjust it a little bit, but this is a very good card. You cannot go wrong with this card. It is on the cheaper side. It doesn't cost that much. A lot of business cards have annual fees. There aren't as many no annual fee cards as there are with personal cards. But this one is on the cheaper side for sure. Only $100 a year to own. And it does offer a lot of good points. It gets you 3 points on every dollar spent on a bunch of different categories, whether it's eats and drinks, so that's dining out, groceries, stuff like that, gas, electric supplies, office supplies, all that kind of stuff. On all those categories, it gets you 3 points per dollar spent. So it's really good in that sense because, as you guys may recall from my other videos, each Amex point could be worth up to 2 cents, maybe even a little bit more per point if you redeem them correctly. And I really need to make a video about that, about how you can best redeem these. But these are very good points, very worthwhile to have. And if you can redeem them at, let's say, about 2 cents per point, that will be a value of 6% back on all those different categories, which is really good, especially when you're getting a card that's not even all that expensive compared to other business cards. So it's a very good card to have. It does have the basic protections. It doesn't have every single feature that the Amex cards offer. But again, for the low price that it has, it's a very good card to have. We can't say quite the same about the next card because the next card is the Business Gold card. Now this one's a bit tough. It probably goes somewhere on B or C. It definitely ranks below the Business Edge easily. I'm going to put it in B for now, but it might go down to C if there are too many other cards in B because it is a card that is definitely okay. It's not that bad. It is cheaper than the personal version. It costs $200 a year to own, but it is more expensive than the Business Edge. So you would expect that it offers a lot more. Well, it doesn't have the airport lounge access, unlike the personal version. It does have a lot of the coverages and stuff like that. But the points are not as good. The points, you basically get 1 point per dollar spent on every category, by the way. So, you don't have any of those 3 points per dollars that you get with the Business Edge. And then if you spend a crazy amount every single month, like 20,000 or whatever, you get an extra couple thousand points as well. So really, at the end of the day, it's not even if you spend that amount of money, you're not going to get even 2 points per dollar. On average, right? When you add all the points that you get that month up, it's not even going to be 2 points per dollar, right? So I just don't really see why the points on this one are so weak when the Business Edge offers so many better points. The Gold card, it does have the better coverages. It does have some of the features like, if there's an event that you want to get tickets for, you get front of the line access. But I just don't know if those little things are enough to be worth $100 more than the Business Edge card when it is offering far less points as well, right? Like if at least they offered the same amount of points, then maybe I could say, if you really care about those extra features, then, maybe you can make the investment. But given that it offers so fewer points compared to the Business Edge card, I don't really see why anyone would go for this one over the Business Edge. It's a bit of a weird one. I'll put it in B for now, but the more I talk about it, the more it sounds like it should probably go into C. But we'll just hold it there for now, and then we'll see what comes on the board. Next up, of course, we have the Amex Business Platinum card. Now, this one might be a bit controversial, but for me, this one goes to S. Now, this is definitely an expensive card. It's definitely not for everyone. So I just want to make that very clear. Just because I put something in the S category doesn't mean that this is a card that you should go out and get. What I'm trying to say with cards that go into the S or A territory is that these are cards that for the amount that you pay for, you get a good amount of value back. Right now, whether you can afford that or not, that is a case-by-case situation that depends on you and your own business, your own income, what you can afford, all that stuff. So it definitely isn't for everyone, but for those who can afford it, it's an amazing card. I mean, it gets you all the airport lounge accesses that you want. Over 1,400 airports across the world. There's at least one lounge that you can find in each of those. There's a lot of Centurion lounges that you can only get with the business platinum or the personal platinum. And of course, on top of that, you get a bunch of credits. So for example, it does cost $800 a year, but you get $200 back just on your travel. So if you just book travel at least just once a year with this card, with the Amex travel, then you get $200 back in credit right there. There's also a bunch of other credits. For example, every year you get $200 back with Dell in 2 separate $100 credits in each six months of the calendar, which basically adds up to $200 again. You also get $350 credit with Indeed. You also get $120 annual cellular credit, which basically means that if you just put your cell phone bill on this card, every single month you save $10 on your cell phone bill because you're using this card. So you do get a lot of value with just those credits alone. So that $800 that you pay for it, you end up getting quite a bit of it back. So you don't actually pay $800 to just have, the airport lounge and that's it or something like that. You do get quite a bit of that money back in these credits. So when you take all that into account, it probably doesn't cost anywhere near as much as $800 at the end of the day when all things taken into account. Also on top of that, it offers you all the coverages you want. You have the cell phone coverage up to $1,500. You have all the travel coverages that you might ever need or ask for, whether it's emergency travel and medical insurance, whether it's all kinds of theft or delay or all those kinds of insurances. They're all covered here. You get Hilton Gold status. You get Marriott Gold status. You get a bunch of other status as well. You get special deals. You get specific things with auto rental companies, whether it's Avis or Hertz or stuff like that. You get a bunch of stuff. And on top of that, you have access to your personal concierge. I've talked about this before, but one of the best features about the Platinum cards is the concierge, which is basically like your assistant. You can call them up at their specific number, and they basically help you out with anything. If you need booking for a restaurant that's already fully booked, they will try and see what they can do and see if they can get a reservation for you. They will take care of it. If you want to get tickets to an event that is already sold out and you need someone to be there to see if there's any cancellation so they can get you a ticket, they will take care of that for you. They will do all those things. It's basically like having an assistant who's there to take care of all those little errands for you. And it's a very good service. So overall, great card. In my opinion, absolutely worth the amount that you pay for it, if you can afford it, of course. If you can't, then obviously it's probably not for you, at least not yet. But if it's something that's feasible, it's definitely worth checking out. Now, the next card is also the Aeroplan business version for Amex. And this one is actually a lot better than the personal version. And I'll go over why that is. But I'm going to probably put it somewhere. Probably going to put it in A. Yeah, that looks about right. So we'll just put it in A for now. And again, we'll adjust if need be. So every year you get one voucher with Air Canada where you can get one companion for free. So what that means is that if you have a ticket, and it has to be an economy ticket, by the way. If you have a ticket to, let's say, from Vancouver to Toronto with Air Canada, then, if you're buying a second ticket for your friend, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, wife, husband, whoever, that second ticket will be covered by that voucher, right? Up to a specific amount, of course, but it's a very good feature to have. That alone could help pay a huge portion of the fee of this card, which is just absolutely amazing, right? On top of that, you have the Maple Leaf Lounge access. You have all the Aeroplan points that you get. You get 3 Aeroplan points for every dollar spent on booking travel with Air Canada, 2 Aeroplan points on a bunch of different categories, 1 Aeroplan point on all else. Aeroplan points, again, you can redeem them up to 2 cents per point if you are diligent and you know what you're doing. So overall, it's actually quite good. If it wasn't for that voucher, it wouldn't be as good as that. It would easily go down at least to B. But that voucher is just a very, very good value, specifically if you fly every year anyways with Air Canada. That right there could save you a couple $100 easily. So that one is a really good feature, and it does make this card quite good. It does cost $600 a year, so it's definitely not for everyone, again, as I mentioned. And to be honest with you, if it's between the Platinum and this card, I would still probably go with the Platinum. That's why the Platinum's ranked higher. But to be fair, I'm not a person who, has to fly with Air Canada every single year. I do travel frequently, but I usually travel either to the States or I travel, somewhere else, whether it's Europe or wherever else it is. I don't travel as often within Canada, and I also don't often use Air Canada because I find I'm just not the biggest fan of Air Canada, just my personal opinion. But, if you are, nothing wrong with that, and that's awesome. Then maybe this is a card that you can take a look at. Maybe this might be a better deal for you than the Platinum version, right? So it definitely depends on the person and your own travel habits. If you travel domestically a lot and you love Air Canada, then this could be a very good feature for you. Next up, we have the Amex Marriott Bonvoy card, and this one's really good as well. This one probably goes somewhere here in the A category as well. It's a tough one between this and the Aeroplan one. I'm going to put this one ahead just because it's so much cheaper and it offers so much good value. But it's close between these two. So the Marriott card only costs $150 a year to own. It does get you a bunch of Marriott points, and each Marriott point is, by the way, worth about 0.8 cents when redeeming towards stays with Marriott Hotel. And of course, if you're someone who stays in Marriott hotels on a regular basis, then this is obviously a very good option for you. On top of all of that, it gets you 1 free night at Marriott hotels every year. Now, there are some restrictions that come with that, but still, the fact that you get 1 free night a year, that right there is worth a couple $100, right? Easily, if you use it properly. You're only paying $150 for this card, right? So with the Aeroplan card, the Amex Aeroplan business card, you are paying $600 to get that voucher, which is worth a couple $100, right? So it's good value, don't get me wrong, but it is still not as much as the annual fee for the card is. With this card, however, with the Marriott card, that feature alone is easily, or at least could be easily, worth more than the amount that you're paying for the annual fee. So if you pay $150 to own this card, and you get just that one night that you get is worth probably like $300 or something like that. Right there, you've profited. You've not only made the entire annual fee back, you've already profited on having this card. So right there, that makes this card a real steal. Now, obviously, if you don't usually stay at Marriott, then that probably wouldn't be the case, because then, you might be spending more on the accommodations in order to stay at Marriott. So maybe in that case, it doesn't make sense. But if you're someone who stays at Marriott anyways, you love Marriott hotels, then this could be one to look into, because just that 1 free night could definitely be worth it. And the fee is very low. It does get you a good amount of points. And it does have some of the basic coverages as well. Definitely a good card, definitely want to check out. Next up, we have the Scotia line business card. And this one goes in the A category for me because it is a free-to-own card. And it does have some very interesting and unique features. But that said, definitely isn't for everyone. So this one is free-to-own. So if you're looking for a free-to-own card, that's an option right there. It doesn't have really points that it gives back, but it does have some interesting coverages. So it does have life insurance coverage for key persons in your business, up to $2 million per person, which is a very interesting feature. And that on itself may be worth it because, purchasing some kind of an insurance in that kind of a scale, that could probably be about $100 a month or something like that. So, or maybe even more, depending on your situation, right? So that on its own might be a very good value. Now, I'm not sure how many businesses would need such a service, but it is free to own. And if that's something you're looking into, you could probably get the card and just use it in order to have that feature, right? And you could even maybe pair it up with another card that you're using, right? So the fact that it's free to own makes it definitely worth it. If it wasn't free to own, then maybe that feature is like, is it worth it? Probably, maybe not. But the fact that it's free to own, that means you can just get it. And, even if you have another business card, you can still have this one as well on top of that in order to get those kinds of features. And of course, it also has lower interest rates. So if you need to perhaps use it even sort of like a line of credit, you can also do that because the interest rate on this card is not the same 20% that you give on credit cards. For this card, it is the prime rate plus 1%, I believe, is something along those lines, which is pretty much what you get with most lines of credits as well. So if you just need a line of credit for your business, this card could be a very good option as well for that. Of course, I always say, make sure to always pay off your credit card on time and in full. That's it with businesses. And as long as you're using a card that is similar to a line of credit, it might be slightly different depending on your situation. Sometimes maybe it might make sense to use debt to, propel your business forward. Of course, take that with a grain of salt. This is not financial advice for anyone. It really is a situation by situation. Make sure to consult a financial professional before you do any of that stuff. But I'm just saying it's definitely more of an option compared to doing it with a personal card. With a personal card, you should never do that, right? With the personal card, please just always pay it off on time and in full. With a business card, there might be some specific situations where it's slightly different, but definitely just be careful when doing that. But it could be an option if you're looking for a business line of credit. You could also use this card as well. Now, next up, we have the Scotiabank Visa Infinite Passport business card. And this one goes to S easily because this card, even though it costs a little bit, it costs $200 a year to own. It has a lot of great features. For example, it has a couple of airport lounge accesses. It's not going to be as amazing as something like the Business Platinum card, but it is something. You get some airport lounge access. You get the no foreign transaction fee, which for some businesses, that on itself could be worth a lot, right? Depending on your business, particularly if you're a business that, has a lot of dealings with American companies, or your supply chain has some stuff to do with other international companies as well. That on its own could save you hundreds, maybe thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of dollars, right? So the fact that there's no foreign transaction fee is a huge W for this card. And of course, all the features that you get, all the travel coverages that you get, it's very extensive. You get some airport lounge access as well. It's a very good card. It's absolutely amazing. It only is, again, $200 a year to own, so it's not even all that expensive. Definitely on the S tier. And, you would know if this is a card that is needed for your business, right? If you have international partners, or, you make a lot of deals, or you pay a lot of money to international suppliers, then this card is definitely no brainer. You should definitely get it. Next up, we have the Scotia Momentum business card. And this one's a bit tough to rank because it could be very useful for specific needs. But at the same time, it's a bit situational. I'm going to put it in A, but at the very low end of A. So what this card does is basically it gets you 3% cash back on a number of different categories. But the key one is the recurring purchases, right? So you get 3% cash back on recurring purchases. Now, depending on your business, that could be something huge, right? Some businesses have, contracts in place. They have recurring purchases in place. And that right there, 3% back on those kinds of spendings could be a huge amount. On top of that, this card is again on the cheaper side. It is even cheaper than the Business Edge card. It only costs $80 a year to own. So it doesn't cost much. It could get you a lot of money back as well. So it definitely is good for specific businesses and specific situations. Is it for everyone? Definitely not. But it does offer quite a bit, so I can't really put it too far down. And again, if you need that recurring purchases, it's a very good card for you. Then I'm just gonna put it an A for now. Now I don't love how top heavy this list is getting. I'm not gonna lie, but there are a lot of good cards here, to be fair. And there are some not so good cards that we're gonna get into in a little bit. But yeah, so far a lot of these cards are really good. I wouldn't really put any of them lower than this. Maybe the gold card could go to C depending on what develops, but yeah, I'm happy with these so far. Next up, we have the RBC Cashback card, and again, this one is a free to own card. This one's gonna go to B probably for now. It might go a little bit lower to C depending on the other cards, but for now I'm gonna put it in B, and I'm gonna put it ahead of the gold card. So this card is free to own, and it gets you 1% cashback on everything basically. Now that's as vanilla as you can get. But that said, the fact that it is free to own, and again, not many business cards are free to own, that is something, right? And 1% cashback on all, not great, but not the worst either. It's a very vanilla card. You could do worse, but you could definitely do better as well. At least you get some cashback. There are some other no-fee cards like this one, like the Scotiabank card, which are more like a line of credit, so they don't have cashback or anything like that. This card is a credit card, so you shouldn't be just using it the same way you would a business line of credit, but you do get some cashback. So it is what it is. I'm going to put it in B for now. Might go a little bit lower, but it is probably going to stay ahead of the gold card, which also gets you 1 point per dollar, which, it could translate to probably 2% value, but it does cost $200 a year to own. So that's quite a bit. So it might be just better to have this one, but depends on your business as well. So these two, they're probably both either going to be at B or C. Let's see what develops. Next up, we have the two Avion business cards. And these ones, this is the cheaper one. This one costs about $120 a year, I believe. The other one about $180. These ones probably go to C. That looks about right. Yeah. So these ones are quite expensive, but they don't get you that many points. So the Avion card gets you 1 point per dollar spent. The more premium Avion business card, I don't remember the exact name of it, but this one basically gets you 1.25 Avion points per dollar spent. Now, Avion points, depending on the source, they could be worth somewhere around 0.66 cents. Some sources say it's about 1 cent. Some sources say it's about 1.5 cents, right? Let's go with the higher end of that. Let's say if 1.5 cents. That would basically mean that this card gets you 1.5% value back on all your purchases. This card gets you about 2% value back on all your purchases, right? So this one is probably more in line with the gold card. And you know what? I'm just gonna bring the gold card down. I think the gold card is probably better suited at C, and more in line with this one. These two are pretty much on the same level. Now the gold card does have a little bit more in terms of protections and stuff like that, so I'm going to put it a little bit higher. But the Avion cards are right behind. They're not that far off. And this one is a little bit cheaper than these two, but the value back is much lower at only 1.5% value back. And again, that's taking the high end when you can just get 1% cash back on everything with this other RBC card. So if you're looking for an RBC business card, the cashback may be the best one, to be honest with you, but it really depends on what you're looking to do with those cards. Next up, we have the BMO Cashback MasterCard, and this one's a bit tough. It probably goes around B, but it is tough whether we put this ahead of the RBC Cashback card or below it. So let me explain why. So this card offers 1.5% cashback on gas and office supplies, but 0.75% cashback on everything else. So slightly lower on everything else, but slightly higher on gas and office supplies. Really, these two are pretty similar. I'm just going to go with the RBC card slightly higher because, I just prefer having the 1% for everything. I feel like that's just cleaner than 0.75% on a lot of stuff, 1.5% on like one or two categories. So I'll probably just put it like this, but they're very close. Of course, it's not that far off. Next one, the BMO World Elite Air Miles card probably goes to D because this is a card that costs about $150 a year to own. So it costs quite a bit, but it gets you 1 air mile per $12 spent. Now, again, according to sources that I could look into, each air mile you can at most redeem at about 10 cents per mile. But even if you say it's more than that, even if you say, you could somehow miraculously redeem it at 12 cents per mile, that would only be 1% value back, right? So essentially what a lot of sources are quoting is that you get less than 1% value back on all your purchases with this card, even though you're paying quite a bit of a fee. You're paying $150 and you're getting less than the RBC Cashback card. So not good. Definitely not the best BMO card either. If you have to go with a BMO business card, it makes much more sense to go with this one, the business cashback card, which at least gets you pretty much the same amount of value back, but for free, right? It doesn't cost $150 a year to own. Now, the BMO World Elite Business MasterCard, this one is a little bit better. And the picture looks a little weird because it's supposed to be the other way around. It's supposed to be vertical instead of horizontal, but you guys get the gist. This one is slightly better, but it's not quite as good as this one. So I'm probably going to put it somewhere on here, maybe ahead of the gold card. That would probably seem about right. Now, this card costs $150 a year to own, and it gets you 4 points on a number of categories. This would be gas, office supplies, internet bills, stuff like that. And it gets you 1.5 points on everything else. Now, again, I've looked into this. The BMO points are quoted by a number of different sources to be worth about 0.66 cents per point. So you're essentially getting 3% value back on those categories, which was gas, office supplies, stuff like that. And basically 1% value back on everything else. Now, again, this is definitely much better than the other card. Is it enough to be better than these two? Probably not, but it definitely is better than the gold and the other two, the Avion cards, for very similar fees to those. So it's going to be higher than those. I might even sneak it slightly into lower B. We'll leave it at C for now. If this one doesn't fill out as much, we might get it up here to lower Bs if there isn't too many other B cards. But for now, we're just going to leave it at C to B. Now here we get into the CIBC cards. We got the CIBC Biz line. This one ranks slightly lower than the Scotia line because, again, it's a very similar card. I'm just going to put it somewhere here. It's a very similar card where it's also a card that doesn't really get you cash back or anything like that, but it does offer you lower rates, so you can treat it like a business line of credit. But the interest rate is slightly higher than the Scotia line. This one is prime rate plus 1.5%. So for that reason, it's going to rank a little bit lower. I'm going to put it right behind these two other cards because these are also free to own. The RBC Cashback card and the BMO Business Cashback card, those are also free to own. But of course, you can't really use them like a business line of credit because, they have high interest rates. But, they do give you some cash back. So I'm just going to put those slightly higher than the Biz line. But the Biz line is also there. I honestly don't really know why anyone would go for this one when you can go with the Scotia line Biz card. And it also gets you those, employee life insurance coverages as well. So it might just be better to go with that one and, just avoid the Biz line. The CIBC Aventura card, it's going to go a little bit lower. The Aventura points are worth very low, and you need to accumulate a lot of them in order to be able to redeem anything meaningful. And this card doesn't even offer that much anyways. It's like 1.5 points on some categories and then 1 point on other categories. And the points themselves are not worth that much, probably like either 0.66 cents or half a cent. Not great at all. I'm just going to put it in C. Could even go down to D, to be honest with you. You know what? I'm just going to put it in higher D for now because D is kind of empty. And then we'll see if there's adjustments that need to happen. We'll do those later on as well. The CIBC Aeroplan card is slightly better because it gets you Aeroplan points, which are a lot better than Aventura points. I'm gonna put this here in lower B for now. The card gets you 1.5 points on travel, dining, internet, stuff like that, which again, that's given that these are Aeroplan points, they could be as much as 3% value back on those categories, and then 1 point on everything else, which again could be as much as 2% value back on everything else. Also with this card, depending on how much you spend on it, you can also earn airport lounge access one-time passes as well. So those would be for the Maple Leaf Lounge, and as long as you spend a certain amount, you will get guest passes as well. So really, the more I think about it, I think it probably should go a little bit higher in B. Maybe we'll just put it at the top of B. It costs $150 a year to own, which is not the most. It's not as cheap as something like a Business Edge card, but it is pretty close. It is less than the gold card for sure. And it does get you some good amount of value back. You do have the ability to earn some airport lounge access as well. You do have some travel coverages as well. So it's not a bad card. Definitely much better than the Aventura card, that's for sure. And then by far the best CIBC business card is the CIBC Costco business credit card. This one probably goes somewhere in A for me. I'm going to put it maybe right here somewhere. It's kind of tough. I'll just put it here for now, and I'll adjust it a little bit. So this card is free to own, but it offers quite a bit of cash back on a lot of different categories. It gets you 3% cash back at Costco gas stations, only 2% cash back at regular gas stations. But if there's a Costco gas station near you, that could be useful. But the best feature of this card is that it gets you 3% cash back at restaurants. Now, given that this is a free to own card, that's awesome, right? There is no other free to own card that gets you 3% cash back at restaurants or really any meaningful category at all. So given that it's free to own and it's getting you 3% cash back at restaurants, that could be a big source of spending for business meetings and stuff like that. So, if you have that kind of a spending a lot for your business, that could be a very good card, and it's free to own. You could also, of course, you have to be a Costco member, but I think most people are anyways. But as long as you're a Costco member, it's free to own. It also gets you 2% cash back on gas everywhere, not just the Costco gas stations. Also at Costco, you can use the card, and again at Costco, it gets you 1% cash back on all your Costco spendings as well. And if you buy something from Costco online, it'll get you 2% cash back on that as well. Next up, we have the TD Business Cashback card, and this one probably goes somewhere in B, maybe higher B. This one gets you 2% cash back on gas, on office supplies, and also on recurring purchases. But it doesn't get you as much on everything else. It only gets you 0.5% cash back on other categories. So if you're just looking for a card that gets you 2% cash back on gas, guess what? You can just get the Costco card, and that one is also free to own. So for that reason, not great. It does have 2% cash back on recurring payments, but if recurring payment is very important to you, it might be worth just spending just $80 a year to get 3% back on recurring payments with the Momentum card. But if you just want a card that gets you a little bit on recurring payments without paying the $80, I guess you could go for it. To me, what really kills the card and prevents it from going into A, and maybe I'll even put it a little bit further down in B, is the fact that it doesn't get you 1% back on everything else. If it just got that, it would have easily gone to the top of B or maybe even lower A. But given that it doesn't do that, it's going to be somewhere in B because it really doesn't seem like there's a need for it. You could just get the Costco card. It gets you the 2% back on gas as well as 3% back at restaurants. It is also free to own. Unless you're not a Costco member, I guess. Maybe, but I guess a lot of people are. So I don't think that would be a problem. If you need the recurring purchases, or if you need a high cashback rate on the recurring purchases, you could get the Momentum card. If you just want a card that gets you a lot for office supplies, again, there's other cards for that as well. It's a very mediocre card because it doesn't get you at least 1% back on everything else. If it did that, then it could have been a little bit better. So that would be my feedback to TD is that, there's something brewing with this card. It could be definitely better, but you gotta offer the 1% cashback on all other categories, right? Like without that, you're kind of undermining your own card a little bit. And for that reason, it's going to be in B, maybe even slightly lower. The more I talk about it, it probably belongs lower in the B section. So I'll just put it here right after the BMO Cashback business card. Now the TD Select rate, again, that's a very similar card to the Bizline. So I'll just put it right there, right next to it. The TD Aeroplan Visa business card is very similar to the CIBC Aeroplan card as well. So I'm just going to put it right next to there because they're pretty much offer the same amount of points. You know, you can try to earn passes for Maple Leaf Lounge access as well. And they're very similar. So I'll just put it right next to it. And all the same things that I said for the CIBC card applies to that one as well. Now the TD Business Travel Visa card is slightly more complicated. This one offers you 6 points, 6 TD points on restaurants, recurring payments, and also on foreign currency transactions. Now, again, I've looked a lot to see what different sources are quoting each TD point is worth. And what I've found is that at most, it is going to be worth half a cent per point. So if we assume you're going to get the high end of it when redeeming it towards different things, that will be 3% value back on all those categories that I just mentioned, which isn't all that bad. The card does cost $150 a year to own, so it's not free to own. And you also get 2 points on every dollar spent on everything else. So again, assuming each point is going to be valued at half a cent, that means that you are getting at least 1% value back on every purchase you make with this card, unlike with the other TD business card. But again, I don't know if it's really worth it for the fee. It does seem like something that belongs somewhere around the gold card. So I'm just going to put it around here. It's not bad, definitely has its merits, but it's not great. And the 3% back on the restaurants would be good. And if it wasn't for the Costco card, it definitely would have ranked higher just for that reason alone. But the truth of the matter is that the Costco card gets you 3% cash back on restaurants, right? And you don't even have to worry about how to redeem those points or everything to make sure you're getting 3% value back. With this card, the amount that you get on restaurants, it will be 3% value back at most if you spend it the best way possible, if you spend it ideally and you get the maximum value out of those points. Whereas with the Costco card, which is also free to own, by the way, it doesn't cost $150 a year to own. That card gets you 3% cash back on restaurants, and it's cash, right? You're actually getting 3% back. So for that reason, I just don't really see the need for this card unless it's a specific situation where you really need the 3% back on foreign currency transactions. But even then, if you have a lot of foreign currency transactions, then you should probably look at the Scotiabank Passport card, which doesn't get you that much points, but it does save you on the cost by not having any foreign transaction fees, right? So overall, this one is a bit of a weird card, maybe even lower than the gold card, to be honest with you. Somewhere around there, it looks about right. And we're just going to leave it there. So that was my tier list for the business credit cards in Canada. Let me know what cards I missed that you guys wanted to see in this video. I'm sure there was at least a card or two that I completely forgot to include in this video. So let me know what those were. Let me know if you have any of these cards. I myself have had the business platinum card for a while. Don't have any of the other ones, but you know, there definitely are a lot of very interesting options. If I did have more foreign spendings, I definitely would have gone for the Scotiabank Passport as well, but I don't have that much in foreign spending, so that's why I don't have that one. One that I am looking into is the CIBC Costco business card. That's definitely one that I have my eyes on. And at some point in the future, I might even consider the Business Edge card, the Amex Business Edge card as well for myself, or maybe the Marriott card. But those are the ones that I'm looking into getting at some point. Let me know which ones you guys have. Let me know which ones you guys are looking into getting. And as always, if you have any questions, let me know. And if there are any cards that I missed, we can talk about it in the comment section down below. So hope you guys enjoyed that. If you haven't done so already, make sure to check out my other video about the personal version of these cards. I'll leave a link to it somewhere up here somewhere if you want to check that video out as well. And that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.